Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of Podcraft. This is the show about everything podcasting, from launching a show to monetizing and everything in between. I'm Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, joined as always by Matthew. How are you getting on, Matthew?
Lovely stuff today, yeah. Start of the day here. I just heard you saying something about putting your aircon on. What's that all about?
Putting it off. It's too cold now. It's terrible. I'm going to heat up with the sun streaming through the window.
Yeah, I've not even opened the curtains here yet, and I probably won't for some time. So
Australia is just ridiculous though, because it was advertised. It was kind of chilly this morning, but by chilly I mean like 15 degrees, and so we go outside. We're a wee bit shivery because we're all just wearing shorts, and then it says it's only getting up to about 22, 23. So I'm like, I'm going to put on my jeans today. But now, just about an hour ago, I was outside. I walked up for some lunch and I was just sweating buckets. Like even a 22, 23 degree day here is just mental. It's like twice as hot as any time in Scotland, even at the same advertised temperature. I don't understand it. It's weird.
It's all about the mediocre here, isn't it? So
yeah, even a 22 degree day in Scotland is like 14 in any other country.
So what's on the agenda this week, Colin?
Good question. We're going to do something which I know absolutely nothing about, so I'm gonna let you lead this one, Matthew. But we're just to intro into it. We are, if you've been listening along out there, then you'll know that this season we've been doing a season around podcast growth. So it's because we released our very own book for the first time a few months back, called imaginatively Podcast Growth. And it's all about growing your podcast. There's 80 plus methods in there, 80 plus tactics, 80 plus techniques, which will take you through growing your show. Anything from a 5-minute trick up to, a few day strategy. And we're covering one of these each week on Podcraft right now to do one out of each chapter, aren't we, Matthew? Is it 13 chapters in total? Is that right?
13, yeah. Unlucky for some, but hopefully lucky for the listener when they buy it.
Indeed. Lucky for any listener of the Podcraft season currently, of course. 13 episodes, each one a growth tactic. So this time around, Matthew, what are we covering?
Yeah, so this entire chapter is on advertising your podcast. So the chapter itself in the book deals with all the different ways that you could advertise your podcast, funnily enough. But this specific task is about advertising. It's about
Neither of us can talk today.
No, I need to put my teeth in. Advertising your podcast on an app called Overcast, which the listener might be familiar with. Maybe they're even using the app right now, because Overcast is a podcast listening app. It's an iOS only app, but going on some of the stats put out by platforms like Libsyn and Buzzsprout, it's one of the most popular podcast listening apps out there. So it's got a big usership. It's the app that I use to listen to podcasts. I really like it. It's pretty well packed with features and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's quite a power user app, I think, isn't it? It's like it works really well. It's got a shed load of features, but I don't know. I can't get over the fact that it just looks really basic. I'm a sucker for a good design, I think.
Yeah, I guess I'm easier pleased on the visuals. But I like the features in there. Yeah, there's a lot of customization options. Not the sort of thing I dove into straight away, but I'm pretty well set up on there now. And I think it was a couple of years ago now they actually introduced this advertising function on it. And the good thing about which we talk about in the article and in the book, and in relation to advertising your podcast, is that if you're advertising in a place that your listeners already are, so if they literally are in a podcast listening app, they're obviously they've got podcast listening on their mind at that particular time.
It's not like barriers.
Like if they see you on the TV or read about you in a magazine or that, they still need to pick up the phone, but they're literally an Overcast. They're probably about to hit play on a podcast. And if you're advertised in here, your ad will just appear. It's like a little banner down the bottom, and you'll get your cover art. You'll get a little blurb. And if they click into that, it takes them directly to your show inside Overcast, and obviously then they're one click away from hitting subscribe or hitting play
Yeah.
on one of your episodes. So
So
yeah.
does this add up here? So you're listening, you've got Overcast open, you're looking through your podcast catalog, like you've got all your subscriptions there. You choose a podcast to listen to, you're choosing the episode. Like what locations do those ads show? Are they at the bottom of the screen the whole way through the app, or are just certain places?
Yeah, I'm 99% certain the banners just remain at the bottom of the screen throughout.
Just
So,
throughout. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so whether you're looking at your own playlist, whether you're browsing another show, or whether you've hit play, they'll just be. And I think they probably have a premium subscription where you would go ad free, but the vast
Yeah.
majority, as with any app, are going to be free users.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, your ad will just appear down the bottom, and it's categorized too, so I don't quite know how this works at the back end,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you'll have a category, so it could be fiction, it could be business, it could
Yes.
be whatever. That's the
Ah.
category that you sort of want to
Yeah,
advertise
so
to.
you can choose something suited to your category as well. So not only have you got the listener in a place where they're looking for something to listen to, and they can just one click listen to your show. Not only that, but you can actually choose to advertise in a category or an area which is relevant to your show too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
cool.
So
Okay.
again, they'll have their ways of working that out in the back end.
Yeah, yeah.
How they kind of target that, because I know they're quite outspoken. The folks that run it are quite outspoken about privacy
Marco
and
is
tracking.
certainly, yeah, for sure.
So I'm assuming he's got his ways. But yeah, again, the good thing about doing this kind of advertising is we've talked in the past about, if you're going down the traditional media route, or if you're advertising somewhere in your niche, say you're podcasting about something that's considered non-techy, and people maybe don't know what a podcast is. So a lot of your advertising efforts on those fronts, a lot of that's going to be education about, what is a podcast and where do you find it and is it free and stuff like that. With this form of advertising, there's none of that, because all of your listeners, as we've said before, they're podcast listeners. They're probably quite passionate podcast listeners, given that they're using Overcast. So it's simply down to things like your artwork and that little tiny, 1-2 sentence description that you get to customize on your ad. And then after that, if they've clicked through, you've got your podcast description, obviously, and then it's down to your content. If you
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
play,
for
you're
sure.
going to be able to capture them, and hopefully convince them to hit subscribe.
Yeah, yeah. Do you reckon there's niches or categories where this would work particularly well for? Like in terms of, like you just said there, it's quite a specialized maybe power user app. Maybe for the more techie type people, or for the more, I'm not sure. Do you get any impression of that?
Yeah, well, I guess the way to check, and this is fluid and changing all the time, but we'll put a
Hmm.
link in the show notes. So if you check the pricing, because it's all broken down by
Okay. Yep.
category, you
Yep.
probably get a decent idea based on the supply and demand. And they also give you
Uh,
some estimates. So they'll say, like, this is how many click throughs we estimate that you'll get from your ad, and this is how many subscribes that we estimate will come from those click throughs. And
mhm.
again, like anything else like that, it's not a guarantee. It's just them saying, that based on our data, this is probably what you'll see, but it might do a lot better, it might do a lot worse. Again, that's going to come down to your podcast. But yeah, you'll see in there the categories that are probably less popular because they'll be
Yeah.
cheaper.
Yep.
So there's pros and cons there. Obviously, you pay a bit less, get in front of a bit less eyeballs, or the flip side is that you pay a lot of money. I think some of these categories now you're talking a couple of grand, and that's to advertise for the entire month. So for some people that
Yeah.
really will be worth it.
Yeah, for
For
sure.
other folks that'll be just way out of their price zone.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize they gave you estimates of taps and subscriptions. That's pretty good. So you can get an idea, you get a good guess at how many subs you're going to get for any given monetary investment, aren't you?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
cool.
Yeah. So again, if you're say you were podcasting for a company or something like that,
Mm.
and you wanted to run this campaign, you could take that to whoever controls the purse strings and say, "Look, this is my plan, and here is how many subscribers we think we could bring in, and here's how much it's
Hmm.
going to cost." So it helps you to put that plan together rather than just saying, "Could I get some money and run some ads, and we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes." And
Yeah.
so.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm just looking through the list just now. So it's looking like if you want to advertise for the entire podcast catalog. So all categories, it's $2,500. And they predict you're going to get about 2,500 taps for that. So 2,500 people's. See, this is a cool thing about it as well. So they're predicting 2,500 taps, as in 2,500 people are going to hit your ad and go and look at your show. That's so. Even though then they say subscriptions, you're looking at 100 to 150. So I mean that's a decent number of subscriptions. They've got a cost per acquisition of $17 there, which means you're paying $17 for a subscriber. If you know how you monetize your subscribers, then that's pretty decent. Like if you know you can sell them products or anything like that, then you can work out whether it's worth it for you. But even the simple fact that you're getting 2,500 taps, that's 2,500 people see it and click on it. But there's a lot more than that see it, isn't it? That don't click on it. So it's still brand awareness the whole time, even if you don't get all the clicks at that point, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, funnily enough, like there was a couple of shows that I recognised sometimes. One of them, he was actually an Academy, a podcast host Academy member,
Oh, really?
because
Cool.
I remember chatting to him about his podcast in the live Q&A sessions,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then now and then I would go on Overcast and just see his show there. So I wasn't
Yeah.
clicking that because I was aware of it, and it wasn't really my target audience anyway. But just it's funny, sometimes a show pops up and you know the show or you know the person behind it, and you know it
Yeah.
just it keeps them in your mind, I suppose, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. That's cool. So to give you an idea out there, if you're thinking about doing this, some of the other categories you've got ranging from the cheapest is around 300. You've got kids and family shows, $270 for the month. Looking at 450 taps, maybe 20 to 25 subscribers. That's only a $10 acquisition price. Up to 500 for science, 370 for sport, 1,000 for technology. So obviously an in-demand area there. Business is 2,000. So pretty expensive. Oh, your pet category, Matthew, not doing well. Fiction at 160. Why are you so cheap?
Yeah, but it's sold out. Sold out.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Need to get the price up. My fiction podcast has so many listeners, I simply don't need to advertise it. So
I guess this must be based on popularity, actually, isn't it? Because he's talking about because it's cheaper for the less taps, which means less people are looking at that category, I guess. So yeah, it just means that more people are looking at the business category than the fiction category. Silly people.
yeah,
Should
and
be getting into fiction.
interestingly as well, when we initially because we've advertised, I think we advertised. I don't know if it was this show or Hostile Worlds, but we tested it,
We tried
and
it, didn't we? Yeah.
I think this is going back a couple of years ago now, and the prices are a lot bigger than they were then,
Yeah,
and that
a lot
just shows you
higher.
that people are using it, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
again, a negative maybe that the price has gone up, but the positive of that is well, it's working because
yeah,
otherwise folk wouldn't be paying it, and I think
yeah.
a lot of folk aren't just doing one campaign; they're going back and doing it again and again and again.
Do more again. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I bet you they've got some data on that as well, actually. So if you were interested in this out there, if you're thinking about advertising, certainly get in touch with Overcast and ask them for a bit of information about sort of retention rates, conversion rates, that kind of stuff. I mean, they're giving some evidence around the cost for acquisition there. So they're trying to tell you how many subscribers you're getting. But I mean, the data must be there to show that it's working for people when it's sold out that much and doing well for them. So yeah. So should we do we'll do the short the type and the time required and stuff. Just before we jump into that, actually, I'll just say if you want to go over and look up the podcast growth book on Amazon, that's where we're selling it primarily. Go over to thepodcasthost.com/podcast growth book. Thepodcasthost.com/podcast growth book. That'll take you to our landing page on it, which will give you a bit more information about it. And then you can pop over to Amazon to buy it from there if you're interested. That'd be cool. But yeah, this task. So this is a short task. So this is only so each category, each task in the book is categorized by type. We've got short task here. We've also got time required every time, so you can see when if you've only got 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something, you can look up some 15-minute tasks to try in your free time. So this one is a 15-minute to set up, and it runs for a month. This is a quick one, isn't it, Matthew? You can get this set up really quickly and get it running.
Yeah,
Um,
won't take you long at all. I mean, we'll cover the steps in just a minute. Yeah, but
yeah,
the podcast level then, I mean, we're saying 3 episodes, that really is a bare minimum, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
I think the more success you're gonna have with this, is probably, like, the bigger your back catalogue. Would that be a fair shout?
I'd say, yeah, I think you could put an argument for both. I think we ended up putting something like 3 because it's kind of a middle ground, isn't it? I mean, you could use this to advertise a brand new show, I would argue, because as long as you've got 2 or 3 episodes in your catalog, somebody's gonna pop on there. As long as the subject appeals to them, the problem you're solving, someone that appeals to them, then they're gonna listen, I would say. So, but you're right. I mean, you might get more conversion, more people hitting the subscribe button if you've got a good 20, 30 episodes in at least. But I would say it could work for small episode numbers.
Yeah, I guess, again, like everything else with podcasting, it comes down to the content itself, and if you've got really good 3 episodes and a really clear direction and good calls to action for folks to stick around because they know what's coming up next, then you
Yeah.
could do really well out it if you're getting
Yeah,
the
for sure.
click-throughs.
Sounds good. All right. So, how do people go about this then, Matthew? What are the steps to take if you actually want to go ahead and advertise on Overcast?
Yeah, so I mentioned it's iOS only, but that doesn't mean you need to own an iPhone or anything like that. So you just hop on your computer, go to overcast.fm and sign up for an account there. So, even if you don't have an iPhone or anything like that, you could still do this. And then you just go to overcast.fm/ads. And obviously, we'll have links to all of this in the show notes. But that's where you'll find, we've talked a bit about it already, that page, all the pricing, the estimated reach and stuff like that. Just click the one that you want to do. Some of them you'll see, we mentioned this as well, that some of them get sold out. So I think you could click to be notified when those become available
Yeah, I
again.
see that there. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, just set up your ad. It's very easy. Even I could do it, and I am a complete idiot. So I've managed it before. So the listener will definitely have no trouble there. The other thing with your ad as well, you have the opportunity to write a little description beside your ad. If you leave that blank, it's just going to pull the very start of your podcast's actual description. But you really want to take advantage of that. You don't want, a half sentence cutting out on your ad. If you're spending
Yeah,
money
for
on this,
sure.
spend a bit of time just thinking of a really compelling 2 or 3 sentences. I think what we did in our ad, Colin, I think we actually, based on your advice, was to write click here. It was something click here, because you said that there is a lot of evidence that if you just tell somebody to click something, they sometimes just do it.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
didn't
for
do
sure.
any split test on that to
No.
validate it, but
That's been split tested in many other places, like
exactly,
traditional
yeah.
places like Facebook ads, Google ads, that kind of stuff. So yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Give the people an action, make them an ask. So yeah, it's the same old. I bang on about this all the time. It's the same old. Give them the problem. And you don't have much space, but if you can kind of highlight the problem you're solving, who you're speaking to, and how you're uniquely solving it, if you can do that in a sentence, and then say "click here" to get it, then that's good. But I can't remember how big is the space there, Matthew. I mean, how many words do you get for it?
If I had done my homework, I'd have been on the ball there. It's a couple of sentences.
Oh, is it?
So for
Okay, so it's a
example,
decent bit. Yeah.
I've got here a copy of, we advertised, it was the show Organic Life that we tested out a while back. So
Okay.
um
Yeah.
our description there, it was interested in eating and living in a healthier, more sustainable way. Tap here to get started. So that's what we put, and that kind of filled it out quite nicely. So I'm imagining that was there or thereabouts with the word and character count.
Yeah,
So we
perfect.
did
Yeah,
that,
so
and
it's 2 lines, maybe 20 words. Yeah, if that actually. So yeah, that's cool. Looks good.
yeah, I did that
Okay.
in September 2019. Got 26,000 views, 1,300 taps, 81 subscribers. So there you go. That was that's a
So
couple of
that's
year
the
old data. That,
yeah. So, but that gives you an idea about the views. I mean, that's how many people. Yeah. So it's how many did you say there? 27,000.
yeah, nearly 27,000 views. So yeah, you've got your views, your taps, and your subscribers.
So that is about 20 times. Yeah, so with ours, certainly you got 20,000 times the taps. So if Overcast are advertising, say, 1,000 taps, there's a chance you could get about 20,000 views going by our experience. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, paid $190 for that.
Nice. A bit cheaper at that point, eh?
Yeah, hipsters.
Cool. Yeah, perfect. All right. Any final steps for the for setting it up?
Just to say that you can preview your ad before reviewing the purchase and making the payment and stuff like that. And then you probably want to, if you've not got Overcast yourself, find a friend who does and badger them to go on there as much as possible. And if your ad pops up, to get them a screenshot, just to again double check that people are actually seeing it and stuff like that. They will be,
Get some
obviously,
evidence.
but
Yes.
always an excuse to annoy a friend, which is always
Yes,
fun.
of course, of course.
So if you want further reading on this, obviously the book, thepodcasthost.com/podcast growth book, but you'll also find a wee article, a wee write up on this on the website as well. You could find that at thepodcasthost.com/overcast.
thepodcasthost.com/overcast. And that basically counts as the show notes for this, doesn't it? So if you want to go over and see all the links, all the evidence, how to go about it, then nip over to that link, thepodcasthost.com/overcast. And where'd you get the book again, Matthew? Tell us that URL again.
thepodcasthost.com/podcast growth book. I'd like to start just reading out the Amazon URL /C09174. Just spend 5 minutes at the end of the show doing that.
That's why we have short links. Cool. And I'll make a wee mention as well. If you're out there looking to start your podcast or looking to make your editing and your production a lot easier too, remember our tool Alitu. We've got Alitu, ALITU.com, which is our podcast production tool, launching a brand new feature this coming week as well, which we'll keep close-lipped about, but you'll see notification about that next week. But it's a huge addition to an already brimming tool with all our editing. It does helps you do your editing, helps you do your audio cleanup, like leveling and your noise reduction, helps you piece together your episodes, puts all the bits together, puts in your fades and your music. And it's got a music library. We've added a bunch of new tracks to the music library recently as well. So you get your packs of intros and transitions all themed together. So it's really cool for making your podcast sound all nice and polished.
He's a lovely little robot.
Oh, he is. The waving little purple guy. Anything else for this week, Matthew, or does that tie up?
No, I think that's all. So on the next episode, it's going to be the final episode of the series, I think. I think we were going on about 13, and I don't know, is it 12?
Oh, no.
So anyway, don't worry about that.
We've missed a whole episode.
Yeah.
Is there actually 13 chapters in the book? Which chapter have you chucked out? There's only 12.
No, I think it is 12, and I think we were just rubbish at the start. I think we've got confused with season 13.
It's season 13. Yeah, that'll be the one. That's it. Trust us with your podcast recommendations, not your maths. So yeah, stick to that. Alrighty, thank you very much for joining us again. Thanks, Matthew, for another great episode. We shall see you for the next one on, I'm going to click back, organic social media audiogram highlights. So how to create audiograms for your podcast. We'll see you for the next week on that subject. Talk to you then.